Just came from Springfield and turning in your petitions today. And I wanted to go ahead and start in the conversation that everybody's talking about when it comes to the coronavirus pandemic. If you were to be in leadership right now, how do you believe the nation should move forward in trying to regather ourselves after the impact that we've seen from the coronavirus?
Absolutely. So, I mean, part of the problem, Eugene, is what got us here. And we know what got us here. For the first nearly 2 months that the coronavirus was here, the CDC effectively banned medical professionals from testing and treating COVID patients. So for nearly, for between 6 and 8 weeks, if someone came into a doctor's office and said they were sick and that they had been to Hubei province in China, those doctors could not treat them. Now, there were thankfully some doctors who put their their Hippocratic oath above those ridiculous regulations, which is what forced the CDC's hand to allow for widespread testing. But that is what has put us in the situation we are. And we've seen how the Republicans and Democrats in the various states have used that as an excuse to then now do these lockdowns and to use it to give massive trillion-dollar bailouts to their favored cronies that paid for them to be in office. Joe Jorgensen and I would end all of that. We would take the regulations out of the way of the medical professionals so they can actually test and treat patients and try to contain this thing and other future pandemics and other future problems as well, and also to not use it as an excuse to bail out multi-billion-dollar businesses at the expense of the American taxpayer.
So you would agree with the president's recent decision to kind of take some of the responsibilities from the CDC in reporting, and you would disagree with the fact that governors and leaders have made a lot of decisions in regards to shutdowns within communities? Those are things you wouldn't agree with.
Donald Trump is part and parcel of this problem. As his CDC did not allow testing to happen, he was on Twitter and anywhere else he could go basically saying that it was blown out of proportion, that it was going to go away on its own, it wasn't that big of a deal. So he is absolutely part of the problem for how this happened in the first place. No one in the Republican parties can be spared from the blame for this, especially not the person at the top of the helm.
But you would not have agreed with shutdowns? You would have kept things going? I mean,
it would have never happened in the first place. We would have taken those regulations out so that it could have been contained in a way that we've seen in other countries where they were able to contain it as soon as it got there. For nearly 2 months, there was almost nothing happening here because the government would not allow them to test for it.
Well, you're running, obviously, Libertarian, so, if you were to be elected, you would start after, obviously, November into the year, where we still haven't seen the true impact down the line of what this could possibly be.
Absolutely.
So I guess kind of doubling down on my question there, what needs to happen next? Those are the things that you say you believe got us to this point. Mm-hmm. What needs to happen next if there is another wave, if we realize that financially we're in a harder situation than what we thought we would have been? What are the things we need to do now to prepare? Schools. Do children go to schools? What would you say for those things?
Well, the question on whether children should go to schools or not, I think that's a local question. We have some school districts where there are very few people that have COVID, and I think they should be allowed to make a decision based on that. And we have other schools where, it's still running rampant or it's reaching record highs, and I think that they should be able to make that decision. I don't think there should be a federal decision on that. I think this is not a one-size-fits-all kind of solution. When it comes to the actual problem itself, again, I mean, we've talked to a lot of healthcare professionals that are saying their job is made difficult by regulations that make it harder for them to do their job. We talk about things like certificate of need laws, where if you want to actually build a hospital or a medical center, you have to beg and scrape and get petitions signed for that local municipality to let you begin construction on it. And it's not something those municipalities want to have to do. It's a federal law that actually requires them to do that. We would change all of that.
Okay. And last question, I know I don't have much time with you, but I wanted to do it because I was looking through the plans in which you all are standing for within the Libertarian Party when it comes to criminal justice reform. It's a huge conversation right now, particularly when you hear people say things like defund police, et cetera. Mm-hmm. You all do want to have some form of radical criminal justice reform to the system to reduce victimless crimes. Exactly what are you wanting to do, and what do you mean by victimless crimes?
We need to end the war on drugs. We have millions of people whose lives have been ruined because they had an addiction problem and they sold drugs to feed their addiction, and instead of that being treated as what it was, a health problem, they were treated like criminals and they were thrown in prison. And then when they got out of prison, they're stuck with a felony record, they are probably still addicted to that drug, and now their prospects to be able to thrive are even worse, and they end up more often than not back in prison. It has created a criminalization of entire communities. It has led to disproportionate policing against communities of color and other marginalized communities. All of that needs to end. end. The war on drugs needs to end. The military surplus program, where the federal government gives military surplus equipment and training to police officers that are patrolling our streets, that needs to end. We need to end qualified immunity so that bad police officers are held accountable and good police officers are rewarded, so that we can finally heal that rift between the police and the public that they serve.
And would you defund police or redirect money to other resources?
At the federal level, there would be a lot of defunding going on, because the federal government should have never gotten into policing. They created this problem. They need to get out of it and allow communities to decide what their policing looks like.